So recently on a Academy photo development session, I was asked about something I mentioned, which was kind of Bleach Bypass. It kind of comes from the film days where basically the bleaching process would either skip fully or kind of just used a little bit, and it kind of left the silver behind. But what it really did, it boosted the contrast of the image, and it also kind of bleached out some of the kind of the colouring within it and so on with it. So it's a contrast thing. It's mainly there. It can actually look very, very strong as well, as far as the contrast is so high that you're kind of getting deeper blacks, whiter whites, and you're losing some of the colour as well with it and things really. So it's very easy to kind of recreate in either RAW or the likes of Photoshop, like we're going to be doing now. Mine's an action, okay, so it's pretty quick anyway. Remember, Photoshop's a language, so you can do whatever you want. You can tweak it, change it, whatever. But as far as this action is concerned, this is really a duplicate of the background layer, and then it's a hue and saturation adjustment layer, and then basically dialing all the saturation down. But as you can see, what we've got here is the background layer has actually had a blend mode of soft light changed. And you can change that kind of blend mode to give you slightly different effects in a very, very similar way to the kind of the Bleach Bypass look. Hence, it also used to be called something to do with silver skip or skipping. Oh, I can't remember what it was called now. Anyway, look, let's do this for real on this image. So if we kind of just grab those and we delete those away, I'll always encourage you, like anything, if you're going to do it in repeat and you like a finish, then create an action that will get you to a starting point, even if it's got to be tweaked a little bit on each image to kind of finalize the finish. So basically what we're doing from the original background image or a copy of all the flattened layers below, whatever you're working with, quickly clicking onto the layer adjustment, you go up into the hue and saturation, and then basically grab the saturation and put it down to the -100. Don't worry about the contrast of your kind of look in the black and white here, because it's going to get boosted when we kind of add the soft light to it now and things. So come back onto the background, duplicate that, Control J or drag it down to the plus, of course. Move that above the hue and saturation. Now you're back to your original kind of looking image, as it were. And then you need to choose the blend mode to come down into the likes of soft light. And then basically you're done. And the good news about that, if you kind of create your action, you can then actually make the decision if you want to change its opacity to bring a little bit more of a flatness to the image. It still kind of has all that lack of color because of the desaturation below and because the way that the soft light blend mode is working, but you can bring a little bit more of the detail back and things if you don't like it so high. Obviously you can go into other ways to get a deeper and darker effect, but if you choose the overlay, you're going to have to kind of work on the likes of the opacity then to kind of allow it to kind of merge through and so on. But as I was saying to you, really my technique is based on the soft light and then adjusting the opacity to get to where you want to do. So let's do it again, and let's kind of work in exactly the same way. I would say, however, if you're going to fix an image, first, it's a better idea than kind of applying the effect and then kind of applying the fixing of the photograph. I mean, that's not a good workflow. Fixing for you, let's go to the remove tool. Let's kind of make the brush a little bit bigger. We'll just stroke down the edge of the background there. We'll tick it to make it happen. And it's always, as I said, best to kind of work on your final image as such. Then we just go into the likes of the adjustment layer, hue and saturation, dial that out. Then basically Control J to duplicate your layer, move that on top, turn it into soft light, and you're ready to go. But as I said, better still to kind of work your magic. Let me just fix that image a minute. And it will kind of give you, like in the film days, every image is slightly different, the way that it takes the effect and everything else with it. So then I just go in and hit my Bleach Bypass, and it's as quick as that. If you like the idea of creating it in the likes of RAW, okay, so these are kind of RAW files anyway. So if I go to open recents, and it was Kia, I think it was, there we go. So if I open this in the RAW, obviously this is where the effect is being applied at the beginning, which I prefer to apply it at the end, but we all work in different ways. Let's just slightly crop in the image, get rid of kind of some of the mess there. And I know we could fix that across here, but let's come across into the preset, and you can see already in one of my favorites I've created is the Bleach Bypass here effect. So with that applied, if you were kind of looking at what's going on, it's mainly in the effects. Trying to move on the effects there. So in the effects, how much you're doing, I like a kind of a little bit of grain, and the clarity is really what's going to change here. And then basically in the light, it's a real increase in contrast, opening up of the shadows a little bit. The whites are pushed up higher as well. That increases the kind of the burning out, as it were. And then basically the blacks can actually be controlled. So you might want to create yourself a little bit of a kind of a bleach 1, a bleach 2, a bleach 3, and then you've got the different effects. Depends on how you want to work them. I wouldn't include the likes of an exposure change within the image. Why? Because basically every image that you kind of shoot, if it's not perfectly controlled at the likes of shot in camera, you're going to get a slightly different effect and things. So I tend to actually use the exposure as the 0 anyway. And once that's done, of course, if it's going to be the only effect that you're applying, I would definitely use the likes of the color and set a color balance that you want. And then pretty much, if we wanted, let's add in a little bit more vignette here, in fact. If we wanted to have that as our kind of bleach 2, as it were, I would just come into the likes of the 3 dots, save settings, and then go into each one of them at a time. So profile Adobe color, I don't necessarily need that. High dynamic range, I don't need that. As far as the light is concerned, yes, we want not exposure, we want the contrast, we want the highlight, we want the shadows, we want the whites, we want the blacks. As far as the color is concerned, if you're doing the white balance, then I would definitely encourage you to actually include that. If it's a studio balance, if it's not going to be a studio balance, you're doing it on location all the time and so on, uncheck the white balance. We didn't do anything to the vibrance at all, so we can uncheck that. Effects then, basically we did texture, clarity as far as the mid-tone sharpness is concerned. We didn't do any dehazing. There was no light coming in from the back, as it were. We did vignette. We didn't add any grain, but we could basically actually select that as well within things. And then we're pretty much done. If you've added any sharpening in, which is quite common to the way that some photographers apply a bleach bypass, for me, I'm doing it in the contrast end, so in the blacks and in the contrast of the original image as such. And then I wouldn't basically include a crop no matter what within things, so I just kind of remove that. Then I would just save it. If you want to see it, you know, at the top of your list, as you can see here, I basically do a 00. If I don't want it to be a main one, as it were, then I do a 0 space 0, and then basically, as you can see already, the bleach bypass is there, yeah? So if I could click on to bleach bypass, and then I just go 2 and just press save. And then once we've tried that across several images, we can then basically decide on if it's going to be a part of my main presets with it. So you can see my favorites are on the side there anyway. Let's kind of just drag this down here. We're going to be looking at the user presets. That's where I've kind of stored mine. We've got that bleach bypass 2 that we have here. And we just click on the star. And by clicking on the star, it now means that if we come to the top here, it's already in my favorites as well now, so I can use that time and time again. So if I want that effect to go across lots of images, even without going through the raw processor, right click it, develop settings, and basically go into my Bleach Bypass 2. And then those effects will now be applied across those images immediately, even without going into the likes of the raw processor itself. And of course, I can still go into raw and make any adjustments that I want within the image. Hope you enjoyed that film. See you next time. Bye-bye.